Good morning, everybody, once again. And good morning to those watching my live stream today. Today we celebrate the 8th Sunday of Ordinary in the C cycle of the Gospels that we're studying this year. I'd like to start with this understanding we have in the first reading. When a sieve has been shaken, the husk appears. So what's that mean? It's like flour. In the ancient days when they had the husks of fruits, if you would, the fruit of corn or barley or any kind of grains, they would take it and sheave it, and then all the husks were there on the top. But the true fruit would go through the bottom that they would use. So do one's faults when one speaks, it says. So in other words, when we open our mouths, we're like that. We're shaking, and you look down and say, I can see truly what that person's like, the husks of our lives. It goes on, it says this, the fruit of a tree shows the care it has. So too does one's speech disclose the bent of one's heart. Praise no one before he speaks, for it is then that people are tested. So in other words, the first reading really comes to me and you today as disciples of Jesus to say, watch what we say, it comes out of our mouth. And then Jesus has some matching words in the gospel today. I like the version that I was familiar with, but here it says, from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. Another translation says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Whatever's in your heart's going to come out sometimes, accidentally or purposefully. It's just going to come out. Got to start with a little humor today, and to be honest with you, some people, I think, who may be at Seton, but I know a lot of people at Christ the King and stuff, they knew my mom when she was alive, and in my mom's younger days, especially when she was in her youth, and I was just a little bitty kid, pictures of my mom and my memory of my mom, she was a phenomenally beautiful woman. I mean, she could have been a model. She really could have been. I remember she wore those high stilettos back in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. And all the pictures, I think, she was just beautiful, shapely woman, long legs, and she was an Avon lady. She was an Avon lady when we lived in Hawaii. And so I remember at one time going with her because she couldn't find a babysitter that day to do her Avon route. They went door to door back then, ringing the doorbell. And my mom said, okay, little Charles is going to go with me today. So my dad's Big Charles. I'm Little Charles. So she's got Little Charles is going to go with me today. So here she's toting her Avon case, and me as about a 5-year-old with her, and she's going door to door in her stilettos, ringing the doorbell. Ding dong, Avon calling. We go in the house, I remember this so distinctly. We go into the house of this one woman, and my mom attempts to make this sell and a pitch and things that she would for all the beauty products she had as Avon lady. And somewhere in the course of that, I remember looking at it and going like this. I was looking around at the lady's house. And from my mouth as a 5-year-old, I said these words, your house is dirty. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I just opened my mouth and I said, hey, there's the truth. This house is dirty, and I'm telling you what it's about, woman. I was giving her some truth that, my mom was so embarrassed. What do you do in moments like that? My mom, in her elegance, she tried to handle the situation. She apologized for it. The last time I ever went with my mom on Avon calls. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I think it's true what the Sirach says in that, praise no one before he speaks, for it is then that the people are tested. That was a testing moment for my mom and for that woman. So as I entered the door, Mom was like, that lady, what a lovely little child. She's judging me and said, what a cute little, she's saying, but when I opened my mouth, that's when the test began. I wasn't so nice and kind to her, I think, in that sense. Now, I got to give you a little bit more humor and be honest with you. Never would I say the name of any student, any person in that context. This past week at Seton School, we had Crazy Hair Day. As one of the classes said, hey, you got this wonderful idea to make a crazy hair day. So the students, even our principal, people, faculty, we all had crazy hair. Be real creative, spray your hair, do something to your hair and stuff like that. So I brought the prop that I used for my crazy hair. Okay? Now, So what I did is I put this beard on. I'll get it on here for a second. I put this beard on. And then there's this hair, and it looks like Cousin It. I can't even find the beginning of it. And so what I did, to the best of my ability, I put this hair on. And thank God I had my key to get into the school, because I walked in over there looking like this. And if anyone looking in there thought, who's that man at the door? Don't let him in. I had my key, and beep, I let myself in. I went walking through. I checked in with Dr. Lee first, our principal. He laughed. I said, I'm just going to go through the classrooms and stuff like that. So as I went through the classrooms and stuff, how can you see? As I went through the classrooms, I walked in the door, and they said, hey, Father Charles. At first, they didn't recognize me. They said, hey, he looks like Jesus. I can handle that. I can handle that one, okay. And then someone said to me, they said, you look like Harry Potter. What's the guy's name on Harry Potter? Hagrid. They said, you look like Hagrid on Harry Potter. I was like, I can handle that. And so I was in one of the lower classrooms in elementary school, and they're like, oh, Father Charles, like that. They're laughing and stuff, you know. And then as I had this on, one of the kids like that, they're like, oh, Father Charles, look at you. It covers your bald spot. I was like, say what? I got home that afternoon, and this is what I was doing. Oh my goodness. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And it's interesting how the mouth of babes, children, sometimes truth is given to us, whether we want to hear it or not. Now that's for a child. Did that child have any malice in his or her heart? No, not at all. I don't think I had any malice as a kid when I said, that woman, your house is dirty. I just told her the truth. I had no malice against her. It's an innocent heart speaking truth. But it's interesting how powerful words can really touch us or infect us or influence us or hurt our feelings or make us think. I think today's readings really cause me and you to look as we prepare for Ash Wednesday coming up this Wednesday to begin the 40-day season of Lent. What am I going to do during Lent sacrificially? Maybe you've already thought about it. Here's a tip I would offer you maybe a thinking about. Maybe looking at the possibility of our communications as disciples of Jesus. As Catholics, as Christian people, and maybe not just for 40 days, but begin the practice of listening to what your heart is wanting to say. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I'm finding as I get older in life, I find it's better to be more quiet. I've learned many lessons of keep your mouth shut, Charles. Listen first. Listen to the feelings and listen to the facts of a situation first. Don't judge right away. Hold back and listen. That might be a great discipline for me and for each one of us to consider for Lent. And not just for 40 days, but begin the practice of saying, I need to be quieter. And not just let the abundance of my heart speak whatever I want to speak. I would think two things. On communications, the level of communications as a Christian, I'd offer us just two simple things to think about before we ever open our mouths. One, is it true? Good. But let's face it, sometimes truth doesn't need to be told at that particular time. But it doesn't mean compromise it. It means enfold it. Lace it with charity. That's the second element of communication as a Christian. Now, I know some people, and you know some people in your lives. I have what I call truth friends. You got any truth friends, people? Truth friends just tell it like it is. There's no charity. And then I got charity friends that are so shy and so scared and so timid to even say and speak truth into my life that they just lace it with compassion and grace and lovingness. And I'm like, that's needed too. The challenge of Christian communication is two-way: truth and charity. And finding that balance is not always easy for me or you. I think of John's prologue in the first chapter of John, speaking of Christ, Jesus himself, where it says, "And the fullness of grace abided in Jesus." Jesus walked in the fullness of truth and of grace, mercy, compassion, love. He walked the fullness. And I love what the reading says. It talks about a disciple is no greater than his master. But when the disciple is faithful, he will be like, or she will be like, the master. That's our goal. That's our goal as disciples of Jesus, as Catholics and as Christians, to be like Jesus, to be his image, and everywhere we go, everything we say, everything we do. Not just to be only truth people and say it like it is. Not only to be just compassionate people, just kind of buttering up the truth and saying, no, some things need to be said. But striving for that balance, I think, in our communications of life, in our families, our relationships, our office spaces, our friends, all of our relationships. Lent might be a great time, if you haven't thought about, what do you want to do for Lent? What would you like to say I'd do for a discipline during Lent? Last thing I'd say to this is this. In choosing that, perhaps, I'd invite you to make sure you choose something that does two things. It causes you to create a deeper and more perfect image of Jesus within you. So some people say, well, I'm going to give up chocolate. Great. It's a good discipline. But is that the image of you? Your waistline? I don't know. Is it a good virtuous discipline period? That might be it. But the question is, how does giving up chocolate help you with your relationship with your neighbor, with the other? That's something for yourself, perhaps. Maybe an inner discipline, which could be very good. The second thing I'd say, though, is when you choose something for Lent, choose something I'd invite you to say, how's it going to change me to be more like the image of my master, Jesus, the Christ, as his disciple? And how is it going to help others know they're loved by God and invite people to come into a relationship with God? Your charity and your truth. The goal is that both are balanced within our lives. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.